Hi there, I'm Allie Elliott.
Hi guys, I'm Allie Elliott. We're back today to continue working on what we started last night. And then I've got kind of two that I'll work on a little bit at a time, back and forth. One started out as what's on screen now, is titled So You'll Remember, and it started out as really simple in my mind. I was just going to do a plain background, maybe some texturing, something like that. And it is evolving into something much more complicated because that is what I do. And then we've got another one that's a master artist image called Home for the Holidays. It's not going to be your typical subject matter that you would hear when you hear that phrase. This is going to be capital H, home for the holidays. So it's going to be a mood. It's going to be a remembrance for the people who are missing loved ones on the holidays. So anyway, that is more in my typical wheelhouse. So what I'm going to do first is this one that's on screen. I'm going to go ahead and treat it as if it's going to be a simple image. I'm going to roll over the cord to my microphone. Okay, and then I'm going to treat it as a very simple image. At that point, I can save a copy and then go into it with a little more detail, with a little more props, with some more props, and decide what we really, what's telling the story more. Sometimes simplicity is best. Usually not when it's me, I feel like I do better with more to tell the story. If there's something that's adding to it, I'm going to add it. So I'm going to try to not say so much because I'm seeing a theme. So here we go. I should have probably just shot this on a darker backdrop, but I didn't, and here we are. So this gives us something to do. Kind of a boring something to do, but nonetheless, maybe this helps somebody learn in the future. Okay, so I'm going to start bringing the brightness down incrementally, and let's see, where do I want to go with this? Okay, I'm going to start bringing the brightness down, and when I'm doing this, I want to make sure to continue to re-add color because this will drain it of its color really quickly. I don't hate the dark, but I want to preserve the tones that are in there right now. So if I get in too closely while I'm doing this, I will kind of end up with a haloing effect, which I do not want to do. So I'm just going to loosely go around. His sweater is nice and dark, so it will allow me to just run the edges, and I can clean up those edges really easily. I do want to add, regardless, an armchair there because I feel like he's unweighted. He's kind of floating, and I don't want that, regardless of what we end up doing with the rest of the image. Oop. Don't want to do that. I'm just going to deselect, and then I can't see it very well because it's light, but I know I left some down there. All right, so this is in stylus territory. I'm still at 100%. I'll go a little bit bigger, but not much bigger than that because we're really running the risk with this level of darkening of running into a halo, which if I end up with a halo, then I'm going to have to redo everything you're going to see me do, and I don't want to waste time. So I'll just run right here because we've got a little space. So I'll run this just to kind of cut down that. See, I already got a halo there, and I didn't lift my brush. Okay, now we'll go much smaller. And it's hard with the hair, especially hair with not a real defined edge. Like the little girl that I photographed the other day, that I did the flowers, the flowers and the balloons. She had really dark hair, so the contrast made it easy to smooth out, and it made sense. And it was, even if it wasn't a high contrast image and I wasn't darkening the background, I could make it a really smooth, cut and dry line. With curly hair or with hair that's a little bit fuzzy, it's more difficult to do that. And I learned a lot from my boy Roger in my Number Days image on not being afraid to just go for it in this department. Okay, and there are the glasses. I'm going to treat the glasses as if we're going to leave them. I like the element that they add. That might be something that I end up having to play around with a little bit and run it through competition and see if the judges agree with that or if it's me being lazy. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I know my limits. So I'm just being careful to go, if I'm erring on one side, it would be to err inside the dark. I can always go back and erase more out at this point. Now at some point that will flip and it would be easier to just go in and clone the background around the edges. But at this point, with them separated, we get that nice highlight on the mustache. And I already have a little haloing around the nose just from the natural image. And you can see where I've missed a spot. That's why I like to go in with the lasso tool and get the whole shebang erased back as early as I can, because I want to hang on to that texture. That texture is one of the 5 visual senses that are so important to imagery and especially to visual storytelling, because you have an element that you can use, that you can take advantage of. And if you don't, you're missing out on an opportunity. And that's wildly important in advertising. Okay, so just have to kind of eyeball at this point and see if, and you can see it, my edges are a little bit sloppy here, so we'll go in teeny tiny, because this might be any of these places that I feel like I might not revisit. I'd rather just take care of them now, because I may not get in there. Nope, not like that. Oh my gosh. See, this is irritating. I don't know why it does that with my stylus. Okay, so I burned right through the deadline for Portrait Masters, and they even extended it. And by burn through, I did get several entries in. I didn't get this done, obviously. This, my dad here is my model, and he lives out of town, so it was hard to get him in the studio. It's kind of hard to get him in the studio, period. And he kind of reluctantly agreed. If I needed him, he would do it, but I don't know that he would have been all in otherwise. But I think it'll be some valuable storytelling, so. And this is, I cannot wait for the opportunity to get in here with my with my smudge tool and make this more painterly and help it flow a little bit. But that's one of the very final stages. And I've been using that tool so much in the last year, I feel like it's probably overdone. And then someday I'll look back and go, oh, that was my smudge tool, period. Overdid it a little bit. Just like with dodging and burning. At one point it was selective color. Or just turning things black and white. One of my very first clients asked, if you can't make it good, do you just make it black and white? Like if it's not, and I was like, no, it's not what you do at all. I don't tend to do a lot of black and white. I tend to miss the color, which is ironic because I'm colorblind. But I'll take what I can get. So this is kind of a muddy edge because of the hair on his arm. So all I'm gonna do right now is just go right along the hard edge and know that that's not the edge. Now up here I can see the edge a little bit more clearly. So hopefully, because my camera's right there, it doesn't look like I'm just scowling at everybody. All right, so this image, upon sketching it out, was intended to be photographic open. It was intended to be really kind of a simple image and straightforward and shot correctly. And not a ton of post-production work, which I like a fair amount of post-production work, just cleaning it up and all that good stuff. But not as much as you would in Master Artist, which you're also being scored on your post-camera mastery, so your post-production work. The deeper I get into this, if I end up going with the version where we're adding a table in the background, we're adding a lamp, this may end up moving into Master Artist. I've had a few images merit over the years in photographic open that, looking back, I probably should have just put them in Master Artist. And I think they would have done even better actually than they did in photographic open, because it's exciting to see what you can do, how far you can go from where you start. And it's, you know, it's not something you can compare to the mastery of the camera, but okay, I'm trying to leave some of those insides and not just have a straight shot. And if I'm going to err on a side being bright, I want it to be camera right, because that is where the light source is going to be should we choose to add one. Now, if we don't add one, I might balance that a little more. But I'm kind of going along with the idea that we're going to add one, but we'll see. And then these pictures will get replaced. Okay, and that's too much. Ever since I came up with the idea for this, I've had a song from it's probably the early 90s or late 80s stuck in my head. My parents would have to force my oldest sister to go on family vacations by the time I can remember. She's 8 years older than I am. And she would be so excited. My mom was always so sad for our trip to be ending. A big long, 2 or 3 week road trip, cross country, historic sites, national parks, all that good stuff, the great American road trip. And my sister would be so glad to be getting home to her boyfriend and her friends. And she would play the song Home Sweet Home. She would just like rock out to that song. And I had to look up who it was because I couldn't remember. But it was Motley Crue, if you're wondering. I'm sure you are. I didn't listen to it because it'll be stuck in my head even more if I did. And I only can think of the one line right now. So unless you are a Motley Crue fan, I would leave that one in the vault. Lock it up. Just talking about it made it worse though. Now it's really in my head as punishment. All right, and this, you can see that the edging wasn't great. So I'm just gonna clean this up now and save myself the trouble later. And it may not end up mattering, but once I see it, I can't let it go. I guess I give up on that. So this is the boring part. Totally worth it. If you're trying to go to sleep, this is a solid way. I'll soothe you to sleep with a whole lot of darkening, cloning, color toning. It's like a meditation. And you get a nice long streak of it all being accurate. It's pretty satisfying. But then at the end, I'll have a little slip up and I'll be glad that I'm not a surgeon. One of my sons wants to be a surgeon and he's 13 right now. So he's in the midst of, cutting up hearts and eyeballs and all that gross stuff. And he is not at all squeamish. So that's good. You wouldn't want your surgeon to be squeamish. But his mother was meant to be an artist. So here we are. And I am squeamish. Even after having 6 kids. Okay, this is one where I could just, oh, see, that's ugly. All right. I could just grab the lasso tool and get it all done at once. But as you see with the lasso tool, it isn't perfect and you still have to go in and fix the edges and stuff. So we'll just go in like this and then we can always lasso the insides once the edges are done. I'm going to bring that down here away from that light. The light for my face kind of impedes my vision just a little bit. Oh, I can't get that song out of my head. It also made me think of a cool story. This is actually, we went there as kids, but I didn't remember the story. I couldn't have placed it. We were at the Stone River Civil War site in Tennessee. And this is recently with my own children. I know we went as kids and I remember the story, but I couldn't have told you which battlefield it was because we saw them all. But on Christmas Eve, the 2 armies, and I'm going to screw this up a little bit, so don't, just go with it. Just be there for the story. But it actually is true for the most part, if I'm remembering it correctly. The 2 armies stopped. They were not fighting at the time, and it was Christmas Eve, And one of the bands for one of the armies started playing Home Sweet Home, and then the other one joined them in playing. So both sides of the war were like singing and listening to music and missing home together, and then, you know, went on to the battlefield the next day. So it's kind of a sad, you know, human moment for America. And I'm gonna have to look up that story because and see if that was all accurate. My dad will have a problem with me telling Civil War inaccuracies. Okay. And I love this texture that even in the dark we're able to keep in his hands. And it's dark enough, I'm gonna probably have to run my lasso tool around that center just to make sure that I don't have any shadowing that's gonna impede that nice texture, because I wanna hold on to that. And I'm sure I'm making horrible faces into the camera right now. But you're here for the Photoshop. Here we go. So I'm gonna just grab, and I tend to grip my stylus really hard when I'm doing work on the stylus. So if I can give it just a little break, then that's helpful. And this will be really hard to see too. So I'm just gonna go back and see how much we've gotten. I don't know if I'm gonna end up making this. Here comes my dog. Hi, babe. There's my doggy. He wants a cameo, but he's too short. Here, Brady. Come here, Brady. Give the people what they want. He says hi. He doesn't like, he doesn't like to be held. All right, buddy. Thanks. Get a treat. Good boy. If he's barking at nothing, usually it's at nothing, but if he's barking at like the wind or anything else that he likes to bark at, then his punishment is that I hold him, but he secretly likes it. He's not ready to admit that yet. Okay, and she's got nice contrast right here, so this might be a nice clean line, save us a little time. Oops, back up a little bit. Okay, and I'm gonna go through her hair with we already got that. So now we've got the highlight back. Is that her dress? Okay, there's definitely some weirdness happening there. It looks like maybe there was an overlap that I missed. I don't know what's happening there. So we'll have to clean that up. All right, so we'll go into her sweet little face with the eraser. And this is not at all going to be pretty because I can't see. I might try. Let's see what the magnetic lasso tool can do. It won't be perfect, I know that, but this tones are so close to the background that it'll just give us a good start. Whoops. Sort of. A good-ish start. We'll take that. Okay. That is really hard to see, and obviously that is not how her face is shaped. So forehead's probably okay. We'll go loosely around the edge of her hair. And we cleaned that up somewhat already. So let's see what is happening right there. All right, so this is probably give up. There we go. And just we're gonna come back to her face because it's stressing me out a little bit. And that way we're not leaving any section, you know, with some gray streaks or anything. But I'll take a bigger brush and I'll remember that I was at 9. And then trying to make this have a nice natural flow with, she's got fuzzy hair, so she doesn't have a strong cutoff. But I don't want to just erase it back to, so it's a really smooth line. I should have, you know, the easy thing was just spin a brush her hair. But her hair is textured, so all right, so let's see what we can do here. Now we're gonna go in real close. And that is actually a better line than it was before, even with the crazy overlap. There we go. And I know I'm squinting. I can't help myself. All right. So I'm going to save this as a new progress. So we're up to 4 now. Oh yeah, okay, that's the other one. And then okay, so then I'm gonna go behind. Okay, so back behind, you can see when I go back and forth with the dark and the light that I've got like an edging along the back of his hairline that I don't want. It's too cut out. So I'm gonna raise my brush size a little bit and leave it around 43%. And I'm gonna go in with a real like sketch type hand, not a real heavy hand, just to kind of help blend it so it doesn't have that cutout feel, and it maintains, nope, that's too much. It maintains that texture, that more natural, uneven. And then I've got a little haloing, so we can handle that. Now this kind of a hard line, it's more of a natural line. That's more of what's really there, but I'll wait on that. And I can smooth that out with the smudge tool when it's all said and done, a lot easier than I can, and a lot more effectively than I can right now. Okay, so we'll go all the way to 100 with a really small pixel and not do anything. Is that actually there? What's going on then? There we go. Get that highlight back. And just take that shadow out of there. That little tiny overlap ends up giving an outline. And I went to college for fine arts, and my professors would always, I didn't do it because I don't like edges. I tend to prefer kind of cross hatching. So I never got in trouble for this. I'm a rule follower. But that was always that when you needed to critique somebody, that's the first thing you could critique without hurting anybody's feelings. Was your outline. And if you're doing it right, you don't really need an outline. Okay. Now, I don't want to obsess too much about that because we might end up putting a chair back there and it not mattering anyway. Okay, so we'll go to fit screen, and I can tell you, as much as I fight the urge to overcomplicate this, I'm going to complicate it. It's not going to end up being this simple, you know, deeply lit. Here's what I am going to do is, see this, it's kind of glowing right around the center, and it's highlighting like his knees and underside of hands. That's really unnecessary for what I'm going for. So because I have this, you can see down here, I'll show you what's on this layer. So it's just kind of an outline. I'm going to stay on that layer that they're cut out of and go with a bigger brush and burn, not that big though, not that small. There it is. And even if we end up making this as simple, this is no matter what going to be an unnecessary highlight. So I went into this layer underneath and burned that down a little bit because we aren't going to need the information from that, the color or anything. Her dress is kind of a hot mess back there anyway. I left some layer on there, I'm assuming. Okay, so I already deepened that layer pretty significantly, but since we have the luxury of it being separate, and I'm not going to muddy up their clothes or their skin or their faces, then we can kind of play around with that. And I'm going to duplicate that and save it because it's good now, and then if I mess up, we can always go back. No big deal. So let's see here. Okay, I really like the texture, and I think if we add a dresser, we add these other elements. If you watched yesterday, then you saw the options. Here's one option where we're gonna add, should we choose this option, we're gonna add a chair, a lamp to kind of visually explain the light on his face. Picture frame that is going to match the picture that is in the locket he's handing her. And then over here I was going with the window because I want to visually explain the highlight on her hair, or burn it down and take it out of the element, regardless of if we have a visual explanation for her hair. I'm going to burn it down a little bit because I don't want it to compete with his face, which is the next brightest. So we'll just kind of go in there, and we can do it now with them on separate layers. So that's one option. The other is a lamp back here, a picture frame here, a chair. So a chair is happening. A chair is the important thing. And then we'll kind of decide. I photographed some of the elements. I don't have a chair like I'm picturing. So we will see. Which one kind of speaks to us. I like this because it's a little more simple. But I don't know that I'm completely sold on the placement. I feel like that light's going to be in a weird spot. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do right now is go in here and work on her face a little bit because I want to brighten up her face, her highlights and all that good stuff. Okay, what I'm going to do first is duplicate and then save. And we haven't done anything mind-blowing that like we, will definitely want to undo. So I'm just going to leave that the same progression that it was. And I think we'll leave it right there. Okay, so first things first, we're going to dodge. And it'll be a small, we'll just go small first. And we are not on the dark layer, we're on the lighter layer underneath. Which, okay, we're good. So because we've got this layer blocking, we can kind of run over the edge without worrying too much about haloing or the dodging bleeding onto the background. And I can tell you what's going to make a huge difference in this is the smoothing out. So I'm going to go kind of dramatic because she was in the shadows a little bit, but she's an important key to this story. And I feel like maybe over her nose there is. Okay, so I'm going to go in here real teeny tiny, like 1 pixel or something, and just straighten up this scenario going on under her nose so that there's none of the haloing, that it's a tiny highlight that's just implied, that it's not like a stroke mark. There we go. All right, and then we're going to go back to, I'm going to go smaller on the highlight and just get, like really get this little highlight on her nose, on her lip. And sometimes when you first start messing with this stuff, it feels like it's too much. It feels like you've gone a little too far. And that I liken that to painting a lot, because once you get to a certain point with a painting, you like it and don't want to mess up what you've already worked on, so you're hesitant to go further. But usually that is when the most changes happen when it's really impactful. Okay, and then I'm going to get a nice broad brush. Actually, I like that better. I like that. That's a little glow from the lamp. Because there was so much darkness that her face light was further back, she doesn't need a ton of burning. But I'm going to give a touch in there just to help define. And I'm going to go really small too, like there we go. And just give her some definition. Okay, so before I do this, I'm going to duplicate the layer and get a much smaller brush. There we go. And just kind of touch up the noise. And kind of smooth it out. There we go. There we go. Hang on to the highlights, but get rid of that noise from the lower light. And I'm not going to touch her eye because I want to keep that as crisp as possible. And just blend. And then I think we're getting a concert from the kids. Okay, and then just clean up this grain. And trying to maintain the gradient, maintain the shape. Okay, that's good. That's a good amount. And then there we go. That's making sense to me now. And then I'm going to actually take a small, but not 3 small, almost double it. There we go. And that makes a big difference. I do want to take this and just make that shadow not so harsh. I'm going to save as the same thing. All right, let's see where we're at. Okay, so the tough part now, if I'm going to add elements like we've sketched out here, is we have this beautiful textured background on one that is cut out with our subjects, and then we've got our subjects on a separate layer, and then we have this space that we are putting the other objects in, which is actually the dark layer is on the top. So it's going to kind of be opposite of what's intuitive, where normally, you know, the further back, the further out of focus, the darker is going to be the back layer. And then the stuff that's in front of it would be a higher or closer layer. But that's not the way it's going to work. So before we go any further, I'm going to treat his face the same way I treated her face. And make sure, because you know there's an age difference between these two, so I'm going to make sure that I'm treating I'm maintaining the texture in his skin, the lines, and the way the light is hitting in his beard in a different way than I would hers, and in a different way than I did hers. There's also more area because he's grown up. So I'm going to treat this in the same way I would treat a painting. And then we can decide as well what to do about the glasses. Because I'm leaning towards keeping the glasses for this one, and then he is the same subject. So I want to keep the glasses line right there too. He is the same subject as my Home for the Holidays image that we're also going to work on tonight. So I'm actually going in between and just really lightly over to smooth out the noise, but maintain the light gradient, maintain the lines, and maintain some of the texture. Not all, but I want to go along here. And with glasses, you have to be really careful not to smudge that line, because once it gets a little tiny bit crooked, you're just never ever gonna be able to recover that completely accurately. So right along this front side of his forehead, we've gotten a little washed out by what was my strobe. In real life, what will be my lamp. Because, like, I keep going back and forth, but I think we all know that I've decided to complicate this more than necessary. Because now that the deadline that I initially wanted to hit is done, now I've got some time before the next set to play around a little bit and to do what I love. And I've only successfully done simple things a few times, and I probably truthfully ran out of time. Otherwise I would have complicated them as well. And the one that I'm thinking of when I say my simple images that have done well is actually my youngest daughter that's in this one too. And I wanted to do something titled Sweet Hour of Prayer because it's a special song. And we had some special memories with that. And I was picturing a really somber, like little girl in prayer in an old-fashioned nightgown. And when I took my daughter into the studio, and she was 2, she had maybe just turned 3 actually when we shot this. And she began to dance rather than, she had her hands in praying hands, and she began to dance, which, as it turns out, I think is probably more appropriate for that song. And she was totally right. And I absolutely love that image. It's one of my favorites. I'm sure I've shown it on here. This isn't anything that's going to be wildly important to the image, his ear, his hair. But if it's wrong, it's going to stand out. So after the image is flattened, I can go in here and kind of drag that texture out a little bit and make sure that, the edge maintains its texture. So right now I'm just going over it real loosely with my little brush, just so that it all flows visually. I just want to blend that one in together because it caught a lot of light. There we go. Okay. And then, I might end up putting her in his glasses. We'll see. Right now, we'll just go over real loosely. because right there with the darkened background, I didn't darken what is reflecting in his glasses. So something we'll have to address at some point, but not yet. So I want to maintain the texture of the beard, the light on it, but just give it a little touch of kind of hand rendered painting. So I'll go and kind of hash marks like I would a drawing or a painting. There we go. All right, I'm here for it. And then I'm going to glare into my camera once again and just kind of run right over. I want to maintain the lines. I want to maintain the texture, but I also want to go in the motion, the direction that I would if I were drawing this image from scratch, just on a blank piece of paper. And I'm sorry for the angle that you're probably getting right now. It's temporary. Okay. So little things like this little highlight on the, like I live for those kinds of highlights, because that little shadow with that little highlight, those are the things that make drawings believable. And those are the things that make digital paintings or composites, maintaining those lighting shifts in composites and making them all match. That's what anchors an image in reality. Now, if you're doing surreal work, it's still important because reality is what our brains recognize. So if you're wanting something believable, you still have to follow those subconscious rules that our brains understand. And obviously, there are exceptions to every rule. But that's not what we're talking about today. I've been streaming later because work is picking up and I've been busier. So I don't get to my conceptual stuff until a little bit later in the day, because I don't like to sit down and work on conceptual work when I have a time limit. I can't see it all in that reflection, because once I kind of get going on something, I really want to see it progress. There we go. Just gonna kind of smooth out, because as I'm smearing this layer, then the layers aren't matching up like they were. So I've got to be conscious of okay, like that. But I can kind of go that way and it will hide it rather than and actually blend it for me. Okay. So right now my main concern is just that these are the highlights are appropriate, because that's what's going to help me see if these elements that I'm adding are worth taking the time to add. And it's not always easy to tell. Okay. this would be easier to just flatten and do it that way. Do I want to do that? You know what I'm gonna do? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna duplicate this layer and duplicate this layer and merge those and duplicate that, and then I'm going to save it as the next progression. We're only on 5, so the night is young. We got a long way to go. Okay, so we'll just kind of back up. I want to back up every once in a while when I'm doing this kind of work, just to make sure that something didn't go super wonky in the meantime, you know, because I get I'm going back to this here, and I'm going to select this and I'm going to warm it up a little bit because she has like an orange glow and their hands have an orange glow. So I want to make sure that they match. And then I'm going to let's see. There we go. Okay, so we'll merge those. I think it's time to clean this up a little bit. All right, so we'll go from here to here and merge those. Oh yeah, we'll just delete that. And those are just my sketches to kind of try to sketch out this composition because I'm not sold on it quite yet. And some things are so simple that it's easy to overlook them. Like with numbered days, the answer to why it was just a little bit off was that he just needed more dark space around him. He needed more of a void. So I went panoramic almost. But I think that was somebody offering me critique, a colleague offering me critique that I hadn't even considered because you get so into the details and so into those little bitty minute things in your image that you don't notice, okay, I just need more space. I really want the chair. It's bothering me that I don't have the chair. So I wanted like an armchair, you know, like that I don't know, an armchair. I don't know how to describe it, but I have a picture in my head of, you know, what I wanted. And I'm wondering if I'm going to look into an old folder and see if I kind of think Home of the Unknown Soldier might have, it's the same chair he was using, but it might be at an angle that I can manipulate it. Yeah, I think that'll do. We'll make it work. 9409. So let's do that first, because that's kind of a mundane, you know, it's not that exciting. But it could make a big difference too in the overall okay. So I want to widen this. Just the arm. I just want the arm. I'm thinking not out loud right now, and I apologize because I'm just trying to decide on proportions and how I can make this work. And if you're going, this is stupid, why don't you just go take a picture of an armchair? You are absolutely right, but I don't have one. And we're running low on time. We're not. I'm just antsy to get this done. I was just talking a few minutes ago about how we got all the time in the world now. But never mind that. Pretend you didn't hear that. Okay, so going to duplicate and hide as usual. And go back here to, do I want to lasso this? I think I will. This being very loud in the basement. That's okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go in there and clean up that line a little bit with a really small brush that's not 400 pixels, not even, let's go 8. 8 is good. All right, and I'm just gonna go right kind of in line, and that's a highlight we're obviously gonna have to get rid of because it doesn't make any sense. He's blocking the light. So we can take this down to almost black because we don't need detail. We just need the illusion of a chair here. What I am gonna do is treat it the same way that I treat everything else. Because just, I don't know, because that's what I do. So it'll just have the same kind of finish. And then we're gonna reduce noise. And I am gonna warm it up so that when we take it down in darkness, it's still gonna have those same warm tones. Because I want the image to be a warm, inviting, cozy feeling. You know, this is not a sad moment like a lot of my images, like the one that we're going to work on later. This is a nice moment. Okay, I am going to take a rather large burn tool and I'm going to go higher. 12 is exactly what I had in mind. And just I wonder. I'm going to move that back a little bit so it's not like looking like a tiny chair. I'm happy with that. And then no, we don't want to do that. We do want to do this. wonder if we got the chair at a different angle. Now for this part we can do a different angle, like that will do. Maybe the light is a little weird. So okay, so the usual treatment here, we are going to sharpen, reduce noise, color, and then we're going to darken this bad boy a ton. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my tool here, whoops, and see if we can make sure that we get rid of that. Then select the inverse and delete. Okay, so I'm going to warm that up again because where it was in relation to the light kind of made it have a color shift, and it's an unnecessary element for this. So I'm gonna make sure that that gets deleted too, because I'm not even sure where that's coming from. There we go. All right. So let's get our there we go. And then there we go. We'll just create. Do we want it to come down though? Yeah, that's better. Okay. So delete, deselect, and then make sure that this little okay, so I think what I'll do here is get a smaller brush, not that small though, and follow along. So this needs a nice dip in the burning pool. So I'm just going to, oh, why didn't that match up? That's annoying. Okay, there we go. Now we'll darken it. All right, and then eventually we will darken this whole thing, the whole chair, everything. But right now, I'm just gonna take a tiny little, like, we can get in there and blend. and paint. We can paint some elements if necessary. And these time-consuming elements that like partially you're going, does that even matter? And it does. I would love to tell myself that it didn't matter because it would save a lot of time, but it matters. All right, so I'm going to combine, we built a chair. Do you see what I mean? How I make things more complicated than necessary. It's the good and the bad. Whoa, okay, that freaked out a little bit. So that was a lot of work. So I don't want to have to do that again. If I do it again, I will be significantly less detail oriented, and I will just be like, you know what? Who cares? And I don't want to do that. All right, so we built a chair. Cool. Before I add the chair to the overall picture, I'm going to get on here and darken him because, oh, okay, you know what? We might need a chair on the other side too. Another arm, I mean. Because that would be weird. It'd be very modern art chair if he didn't have one. So this will be a little bit easier. What just happened? All right, so save that. So I'm going to, why is it doing that? That's weird. I don't know if there's something going on. Oh, I bet it's because I had pencil on my very high-tech white paper mouse pad. Maybe not. Okay. So this is oh, come on. It's going to be weird now. All right. And then I'm going to lower my opacity and go okay. And then select inverse and delete. And then I'm going to deselect and bring this back up to 100%. And then what I am going to do is add just a touch of light because it's going to be closer to our light source. Just a touch. All right. So now we've got the armchair built, which was a lot of unnecessary work. But now if you ever need to build an armchair and you have a photograph of another kind of chair, boom, consider it done. So merge that. And I'm looking under my light here at it. I wonder if I should have pushed that back a little bit. I think it's in pretty good shape. Save that bad boy because I don't want to do that again. All right. Well, you know, I can't help myself. So we're going all in. And I don't know if we'll end up getting to home till holidays, because this is also how I operate. A little bit of chaos. All right, so I took some pictures of sideboard in my dining room that I can't find now. There it is. Okay. So 3, 4, 6, 7 is gonna be, we got a lamp. So there's our lamp, bunny not included. And then that's a different picture. And then the illusion of a sideboard. And I shut a clock too, just because I tend to add a clock. I think clocks add a lot. You gotta take away from them what you want. So I just end up adding a clock. It's like a weird little, it's just like a weird habit. But this is the only one, 3452 is the only one that actually shot at the right angle. So I guess that's better than nothing, like the armchair where we just have to create something from nothing. And I left a sign on it, so bad job. But that's okay. I can't really see it, so I wonder if I should just reshoot that. That's not a great angle either, to be honest, and it's like 10 feet away, so I could probably reshoot that pretty quickly. I just kind of don't want to. So let me just get an idea if this is going to... Okay, I actually don't mind the angle, but I need more information. All right, we'll just do the lamp right now, and then I could take a break and go shoot a picture of the sideboard real quick or whatever. Since I wasn't even gonna add this stuff, you know, like a day ago, we can see how it all works. Okay, so when I did these sketches, one option is window. Oh, look, we've got the armchair perfectly lined up with my vision. So our options for back here, we could have the lamp right here. My concern is that the brightness of the lamp, as you can see, is going to compete with the brightness in his face and her face with the locket. I'll go pretty small with the lamp. And his face is brighter. I don't know. I don't want it to compete with what's going on. So what we can do, there are a couple things we can do there, is take it down so it's just like a shadow of the lamp. That's a little more difficult when you're working with the actual light source in the image to make it visually believable. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards anyway. The other option is to have the lamp over here behind her. We already took down that highlight in her hair, so I feel like this one is less ideal, but it would also keep it from competing too much visually with, I think I'm leaning towards that one, just because I can tone down the lamp. And then we've got a picture frame too that I want to put in there. So the last missing element will be the sideboard. So I think we'll go with this because the window seems highly unnecessary. And if you add something in there that isn't part of the story, your audience will kind of make it part of the story or be confused by it, which is even worse. So you don't want anything that's going to change your story. So here we go. All right, I'll take my sketch off there. So what we will, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull up the picture frame because I did shoot a picture frame. I just need to decide if I want it. Okay, so I've got an up-close picture of my parents, and then a further away picture that's very similar, but it's just different enough that it will tie together without being a duplicate. So, and there are also 2 pictures in the locket. So I can I have double the chance to tie those together. But right now we're just going to cut out a lamp. It's less exciting. Oh, that's what I was going to do. I got sidetracked. I was going to grab the picture frame. If I can find it. Okay, that's a good angle and everything. There we go. So another thing that was kind of undecided here is I think I'm gonna flip it because I want the lamp to be reflecting on it so that it's not so this will be back there behind them, and that way the pictures are real close to each other. Or, and give me some feedback on this, or I can put it over here. What do we think? Leave me feedback in the comments, in the chat, whatever, and tell me what you think. How should this layout look? But if you're watching this later and I have already finished, don't tell me at that point, because then I will be forced to go back and fix it if I feel like I screwed up, or it'll be on my wall and I will never be able to look at it without seeing what's wrong with it. Okay, so what we could do is visually create a little space. And make this smaller. I'm just really not sure that, like, and I don't want to put it way up here because that doesn't make sense. It would be like a little short chair and then the sideboard's really tall, like a little hobbit chair. Okay, anyway, it'll come together. But the first thing I need to do anyway is extract some of these elements, and this should be kind of easy. This should have, a relatively, some elements to it that come together. Hi, Bravey. He's back. And then I'm going to go way below so that I can get some of that natural shadow. And then this is a difficult lamp. This is just, I don't have table lamps. So this isn't exactly what I wanted, but it was what was available. And I do like the texture. I like the light and shadow, and that'll be a fun element to play with. So it's got some bonus features for sure. Okay, delete that. And then I kept, I don't want to do that. I kept the pattern, the light pattern on the wall, just to kind of decide if I wanted to, if I wanted to hang on to that or then create it on my own. But I do think I'll just create it, and then I can make it as subtle or as, please excuse my dogs. Pause. Hi, I am working on a composite image that started off not being a composite image. So here, we'll back up. This is the drawing to kind of sketch out how I'm gonna lay it out, and I need some feedback on where the elements should go. Right now I'm just cutting out the lamp that's gonna be the light source that's on their faces, so I'm leaning towards lamp here, and that's the wrong sketch. We're gonna go with this sketch probably. Maybe a combination of them actually. I like the idea of the lamp being inside the frame, and then we can keep the viewer kind of inside and darken the edges and keep the story all wrapped up. So all I need to do for that is tone down the lamp a little bit and maybe not have it end up being so bright. But I really like the texture, and I'm gonna go reshoot the sideboard here in a minute. So the first thing I'm gonna do with the lamp is just help it match everything else, the texture and all that good stuff. And then I'm gonna warm it up. Nope, that's not it. Now I'm gonna warm it up. And then I'm going to darken it. But I'm also gonna take some contrast down because it has a lot of natural contrast just with the pattern, with the texture. I'm gonna go into underneath it and tone down this. This is the shadow that was on the table. So I don't want a hard shadow like that. Obviously that's not natural. And then we'll go 50. All right. So I'm just gonna clean the edges up just a bit. So this is the boring part that pays off in the end. And I actually, it's weirdly satisfying to get all these little, like, not that, that's why I'm not a surgeon. It's weirdly satisfying to get these little edges smoothed out and to see it all come together at the end. And then we've got to get the images placed in the locket, in the picture frame, and okay, so this edges are actually, so what I'm going to do after this is, I'm going backwards on this so it feels weird. There we go. Much more natural movement from left to right for me as a right-handed chick. Okay, so what I'm going to do after this is create a separate layer for the light. I couldn't talk while I was doing that line. The light that'll be on the wall, and I want to maintain the texture because I like that texture, and it'll help prevent any banding or anything like that in the final image. And it just adds kind of like a cozy element. Right now it looks weird because my elements are floating. Okay, so I might do, let's experiment here. There we go, and then okay, and then we can get a nice big, bigger than that even. Get that hard line out of there. Okay, and is that behind or that is in front? So we want that behind. And then on this, I'm going to erase back a little bit because we don't need that. We don't need that hard contrast. Whoops. There we go. And then we'll go back to this. And I'm gonna turn the light on. We need like triple that, quadruple that. Okay, and that is a lot of visual information, so I'm going to take that down a notch. But I'm going to connect it to, make sure that's okay, connect it to there. Okay, I'm going to take a little break. It'll be like 3 minutes, and I'm going to go photograph that sideboard so that we don't get any further into this image without the elements that we need. And I was lazy before. So I'm going to take like a 2-minute break, go get a coffee, go get a snack. I'll be right back. Hang tight. Back, and I shot my little sideboard, and I went ahead and shot. I have a Christmas tree. Don't judge me. There's a story, and it's undecorated, regardless. For the other image that I'm going to work on, which, as it turns out, I'm getting deeper into this one than I expected to. So I may not end up doing the other image tonight anyway, but that'll give me something to work on this week because I don't have anything coming up that's really like super vital. I had to shoot this at a weird angle because of where my table is. I have a big dining room table that's kind of in the way. So this might take a little work. What's new? What's new with that? Nothing. As expected. So, first things first. Its angle is super weird. So, I can try to shift my perspective here. And actually, that's working out pretty well. Oh, there we go. All right, that's a little better. I do want to go into lens correction and custom. I'm not super used to this lens correction like I was the old. It really messes with the pixels, which I don't like. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to end up reshooting it again. But we'll see what we can do. I actually don't mind the distortion. I mean, this is going to be not a factor anyway, because it's going to go. I'm just going to cut that off. All right, first things first, the usual sharpen, and then reduce the noise. I'm going to keep, I had no light in there. I have a chandelier in my dining room that has the candle or the lights in it that look like flickering candles. So it gives off absolutely zero usable light. So I had to bring my ice light in there and like hold it with one hand and shoot with the other at a really high ISO. So it's not ideal. It's definitely not ideal, but that's okay, because it's going to work for what we need it to work for. One thing that I might do here is grab that. That's probably the wrong angle, but I'm going to grab one of these better shots of the knobs, and just that little change will make a difference. Is that the one I just opened? No, that's perfect. Okay. It's a weird angle, but it doesn't really matter. All right. So Okay, so duplicate as I will, and hide one. And then I'm going to lower the opacity so that I can see how this is going to look through those two. So I'm going to make it a little bit crooked. I'm not too worried about down here not having any information because number one, I could clone, and number two, I'm going to deepen the entire image so dark that it's not really going to matter. So it's feeling really left-handed heavy, and this feels too big. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this and duplicate this, and then merge those and duplicate that, and then save it as a new file. Okay, oops. I don't know what that was. All right. So now we've got like our floating haunted mansion lamp. And where did my sideboard go? There it is. So there's the ghost sideboard too. I want to play with that perspective just a little bit more because I want to bring the camera right side closer to me. There we go. And then it gets smaller because this is really, when this is all said and done, I want this to look like almost just like a painting behind them, like a set. Not like, it's going to be like a dreamy thing. So now you know. Okay. And then we can bring down the picture frame, and it will be a little obscured by his arm, which I like because that takes out any kind of wonky perspective. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. And then it's a little more lifelike. And then where is our lamp? All right, there's the lamp, and it's gonna go up here. Okay, I'm gonna save because all these little details will add up. All right, and here is that. I'm gonna duplicate it again because I changed that perspective just enough for it to be a big deal. So I'm gonna go here, and the hard part will be around those hands. So I might actually just try this. I'm hoping that it's all gonna be dark enough that it's not as vital. But sometimes you just don't, you can't guess. Did that make sense? Okay. So that's all going to be out of the context anyway. That's not going to be in it. Okay. So I think maybe I'll just go in here at 100%. Oh, what's going on? Okay, so why aren't I? That's why. All right, select inverse, and we'll try that again. Oh, I don't want to do that because I just erased. So I just want to do this top arm. And then I've gotta block my light real quick. My mouse is acting a little bit weird. Okay. So I'm gonna reselect that and pick the wrong thing. There we go. Then go down here. Gosh, doing that. Okay. So I'll want to blend all this anyway. So hopefully if it's not perfect, we'll still make it work. Nope. Now let's try it. So this is definitely going to need to be cleaned up, which is annoying. But as I can see now, around the front of her shirt, it still needed to be cleaned up anyway. So, no big deal. Okay, so that's going to need some definite work. Maybe we'll just lower the opacity altogether. Okay. So I'm gonna have to go in here and do some more fine tuning, and I'll go in there with like an 8. All right, this is a job for the stylist for sure. And like I said, I'm gonna keep it as close as I can, knowing that I'm gonna go in here. I'm not only gonna go in here and clean it up, I'm gonna come in later when it's flattened and smudge. I'm going to darken that background pretty significantly, so it doesn't have to be total perfection. And then it's kind of already a mess around these hands. What is happening? Yeah, look, under my light. This is when being colorblind hurts, because I'm having trouble seeing the edges and what needs to be erased back and what's skin. Okay, so that's going to take a lot of cleanup work for sure, but I almost feel like at this point it's probably better to leave it until it's flattened, because then I know which layer I'm working in and which layer has, you know, the see, and that's not a huge discrepancy either, as long as I've got the general. Okay, so we'll just go full on with that. Oh, that's what I need to do. I do need to erase back around the locket, and that's going to be a pain. I had this on a separate layer and I should have just left it. Why do I do that? That's okay. Better now than after it's flattened, right? And And this is all going to be covered up anyway because I've got pictures that I'm going to put in there as part of the storytelling for this image. So the one, I do want to make sure that I'm preserving this nice little rim highlight around the locket, and as much as the detail as I can. Okay. That's good enough. As long as I have the highlights and the shadows, the pictures are going to change anyway, so they're not really a factor, but I still want them to, if they're on a separate layer, I don't want any funny business. So I want to preserve these highlights without creating too much of a halo. And this size looks just about perfect. I'm looking angry again. I can feel it. I can feel it in my forehead. This was originally going to be a photographic open entry, which is, they're just judging based on the end result. They're not worried about what you took to get there. They're worried about your photographic ability. The more work I do on it, the more I'm feeling like maybe this is a master artist entry after all. Okay, so I was going to replace those knobs. As I'm looking at them now, they don't really bother me. And did some of that get erased? Okay, so we might have to address that too. It's looking a little crooked anyway. I'm going to move my lamp up here and bump it. And then I don't think we need full opacity on this, which is probably why I had it like that a minute ago. Details, details. Okay, so do I, oh, okay. All right, so what I'm going to do here is okay, and we just brought back that little bit that had gotten erased. Maybe a little bit bigger than that. Okay. Okay. Just working those details in there. Before I go any further, I'm gonna save. And then I'm gonna go to my picture frame. I'm gonna play with this perspective a little bit because I took it wanting heavy perspective, and now that I'm looking at it, I got a little excitable. All right, So we'll go back up. Okay, not quite that close up. And then I'm going to twist it around just a little bit so that we've got nice. So I'm going to leave the edge down there so that we can get a little bit of a shadow. Nope. Reselect. Inverse, that's what I was going for. All right. So then we'll get the usual treatment. Uh-oh, we missed. Okay, and now we can, first things first though, I'm gonna get my edge softened up here. That's gonna end up being the shadow. We'll go a little bit bigger and then a little bit lower opacity. And then this whole thing will end up getting erased back because it's going to be behind his arm, but for the time being, I'm not too worried about it. First thing I'm going to do is sharpen. I haven't touched it since I did the rest of the image, so I don't have to worry about changing anything. Same with this one. I'm going to warm it up a little bit because the whole image is going to be pretty warm. And then it's got some highlights naturally, so I'm just going to darken it because these parts aren't the most important part of the story. I'm going to duplicate and hide that, and then make sure that it's in the exact right spot. I'm going to make it a little smaller because I don't want it to compete. I still don't love that. It's kind of got a weirdness going on. Okay. Now, I'll delete that and duplicate again because I'm paranoid. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the storytelling aspect. So I'm going to take this, well, actually, first of all, let's get rid of no, why is it doing that? That is so annoying. Okay, let's try this again. Okay. It's just going to take that corner off. And then, ooh, why is that still looking weird? It's looking crazy. That's going to bug me now forever. There's no fixing it. Careful what you wish for. No, that's not helping. There. We went a little far, but distort is what I'm looking for. There, okay. I'm happy with that. All right. So I'm going to duplicate that. I think I'm going to go ahead and flatten it. No, I'm not going to flatten it. I'm gonna flatten most of it and get rid of a lot of this. So I want the lamp separate. That is a red hot mess. It really is. So maybe I better clean it up while it's on layers. That's not it. Yeah, I better clean some of this up at least. I'm dying to get to the fun part where it really starts to make sense and all come together and like not be this. But we're not there yet, so just have to get over it. This is gonna be too big. Okay, I'm gonna block my light for a second. So as long as I get these erased back, then I think we can go ahead and let's go 8. Then I think we can go ahead and flatten and get some of these details handled. Because this is just that sideboard happens to be the colors that I struggle to see the most. So if you see me leaving a big chunk of like green, blue, whatever, you have to let me know. Oh, like, or a big chunk of her finger. And we'll go in and clean that up. Right now, because this sideboard is not at 100% opacity, any cloning that I do is gonna be skewed for that reason. And I'll just go, the hair on his hand is kind of catching light, so we want to blend it a little bit. And then when we get in here and dodge and burn, that's just really going to give it all kinds of shape and dimension. And that is the fun part. All right, so I'll save it as is. And now we're going to clean it up a little bit. I don't need my sketches anymore. I don't even, what is this? Okay, that's, all right. We'll just delete those. Delete those. What is this? Okay, that's more, I might actually hang on to that because I might take pieces of that. So this is the picture frame. I'm gonna label these because we're getting down to, actually, you know what? Down to the part where I want to detail work. So it's a little bit, this is the extra sideboard. Nope. I can't spell when people are watching. It's like when I have to parallel park. If I'm alone, I'm awesome at it. If there's anybody watching me, I'll just let a feral cat do it because they'll be as effective. Okay, and is this, what is this? Oh, okay. I'll delete this one then, and this will be our extra sideboard because that's actually, I did it again. That is, okay, we don't need that. What else do we have here? I think that was his chair, so I think we're good there. And then duplicate the background layer. And this will be a whole new progress. We are at progress 8. that alone tells me we have quite a way to go. We'll get in the double digits, way into in the 20s or so before we can call this done. That is an understatement. All right, so I still don't love the composition, but I feel like that'll come together. There's a whole lot of dead space, unnecessary space over here. So I'm gonna extend this sideboard over here, and then we can darken, pull out highlights, and just let it kind of fade off into nothing rather than it just being nothing. Because he's anchored with the chair, and we toyed with the idea of her sitting, but she became so much smaller that her standing made a lot more sense. And also it's just kind of a nod across generations, passing things down, you know, just kind of, I don't know. I'm just making stuff up now. Go with it. Just go with it. Just trust me. All right. You can read into it all day long. Okay, so here is the sideboard. So I am going to take a bigger brush and then 100% and erase that back, because we just want kind of the illusion of that continuance. We don't really need that in its actuality. And we are for sure going to deepen everything so that it's like almost like it's not there anyway. So I'm not going to waste too much time on these little parts. And because I had done some erasing, I'll make sure that these are all, I want to keep the texture though. I really like the texture. All right. So I'm going to bump the lamp down a little. Actually, what I would really like to do here is, move this up. No, that's not gonna do it. I'm just missing too much of that information. All right. So what I'm gonna do is duplicate this layer and show it and then move it. Because, oh no, it is all, it is all, not that one. I did the wrong one, didn't I? Oh no, did I just delete? I deleted the one that I want. Now we're back. Oh, that could have been ugly. Okay. So we'll duplicate the extra layer. That's the one we'll move. No, why is it? Oh. Is it because it's not? Okay. Jeez. That's what we wanted to do. Hold Holy moly, who knew that was so complicated? All right, so we'll take a bigger brush and erase back. In fact, I wonder if I can just get rid of that whole thing. There we go. Okay. I can't see. Somebody's like putting on a show, full on show. Okay. So I'm going to zoom on in down here and erase back this little section of dress. It's super hard to see. I actually see better in what you guys are seeing than in my own screen. I could just turn the light off, but I think it's time to fix that before we go any further. And actually, before I even do that, okay. All right, that helped anchor that side. It's gonna fade out anyway, and we're gonna burn that whole thing down in the nicest way possible. Okay, before I go any further, I'm gonna grab her standing there. Oh, where's one with the back of that dress? There we go. So I can just replace whatever, you know, is happening. What's going on down there? It's exciting, whatever it is. Okay. So, is that matching up? I can't tell. We'll go with that. We got to do the usual here. A little bit time consuming, but to continue to do it over and over. It would probably be better if I just did it all at the end. It would be more efficient, but this is also what keeps me excited for these kinds of things. So here we are. All right, so I definitely don't want to over her arm. Okay. And we're definitely going to bring down that light too, because let's just make sure we get those hard edges. I don't even know that. Whoops. That we'll need to take that away. I think we need to burn it, but I don't think we need to completely erase it back because I'm not sure that there's much information behind there. Oh, there is, isn't there? Well, let's see. Maybe not a ton. So one thing that I see here is that the other dress is still showing. So that if I erase that back completely, that's going to defeat the purpose of... Okay, so what I'm going to do is grab a clone for right there. I just put that on the lamp. Whatever, it's not gonna matter. All right, now we've got, we're gonna erase down her hair. And we've got the sideboard impeding her dress. Okay, so that's what it is. Okay. So I would really, really, really like to get close to being able to flatten, peeking at, okay. So we're getting there. All right. So this will be teeny tiny. Oh, that's what I was going to do. Okay, I'm going to add a layer here so that when we darken and let's fill it with like a gray. So when we darken, let's just go above everything because there's some little smudge of something left. Okay, so I just want to be able to grab that shape. And actually, I'm going to burn it down a little bit and make it a little darker. Okay, and then let's do the same thing over here. Actually, it's going to have to be on a new layer because I want to be able to move them independently of one another. Okay, and then that one, the one on the left is more in the light than the one on the right, so it's gonna be brighter. Okay, so this is the locket block, camera right, and then this is the locket block, camera left. And then somewhere on here is, there it is, the picture, locket, camera. We'll put this on the left. All right. And we'll move this up front. So, let's see. So I'll select, and then I'm going to bring that down a little bit because I don't want to and then because I covered up the pictures that were there, I can go through there and smooth them out a little bit. Whoops. So I'll take a bigger brush, lower opacity, and then just darken the whole thing because it just should be like a whisper. Okay, that's not gonna work. Okay, so we may go 50%. Because I want it to be, I want you to be able to tell what it is, but it not be the main focal point. And I feel like this is really moving towards being a master artist image, which is good because I have not found a model that can accommodate both of our schedules to do the next concept that I really want to do. So to have some options with this would be really nice. Okay, so we did that one, and I took these pictures, so there's no trouble in using them. And we'll go, that's too close because my other picture is not going to fit in there. There we go. Get it way down there. Oops, wrong way. And then picture, locket, camera right. All right, so we'll select that and select the inverse and delete. And then we'll take a teeny tiny, like half that size, there we go, at 100%. Just to kind of smooth out, whoops, hopefully with a smoother hand than that. Okay. So we'll darken that a little. No, actually we won't. We're not going to darken that, but we are going to lower opacity somewhat because I said I think we will kind of erase over that with like 30%. So it's kind of casting a shadow there. And then we can do, when I'm going through here at the end, I want to make sure that I add a little reflection in there. Hi, I'm doing great today. How are you? Welcome to my stream. Make sure you follow. I'm working on this composite today and starting to get to the fun part. Kind of working my way through. How are you today? That's where I grabbed the back of her dress. Okay. So we will grab this for this picture frame back here. So it's really, really bright. Whoops. What's my deal? Okay. So I'm going to add a layer to take the other picture out without, so we don't have any bleed through or anything like that. It's pretty dark anyway, so I don't think that would be a major factor, but just in case. And I'm actually going to grab a color out of there, which is basically black. And then deselect, and I'm going to get the picture in here, and we're going to have to change, oops, I'll move that up, the perspective. So we'll have to distort it a little bit so that it's matching. We'll try this. Nope, wrong way. Not that way. This way. Let's try that. Okay, and then I can go in and just select this inverse. Nope, not do that. Don't clear that. The picture. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to create the visual implication of a shadow from the edge of that frame. And then we're going to have a layer with highlights. So we'll take some contrast out and darken the whole thing. No, that's not gonna, that is too much brightness. That's gonna compete with my, let's try that. That's still a lot. So what I'll do up here on the top is I've got this blank layer, and I can get my brush tool and just do a quick swipe, and then get a smaller one. Nope, that's not, it's too hard edged, and the hardness is 0. So this might actually be a little easier to do when we're just dodging, when it's all flattened at the end and we're kind of creating we can kind of dodge and burn, and that is going to make it. I want to make sure I erase back the runoff from that. There we go. Okay. All right. What's going on back here behind her hair? She's got like sideboard over her face, it looks like. Yep, sure enough. That's exactly what it is. Okay, well, I'm glad I caught that before. And that is why I save layer after layer after layer after layer. For little things like that would be so much more complicated if I wasn't saving so I could go back. Because we're cool this time, but and we're really into the minute details, so it's easy to miss. There we go. Okay. Okay. I'm really getting antsy to just clean it, clean it all up. Okay. All right, I'm dying to. I can't take it anymore. What I am going to do first, though, is fix this lamp that's bugging me. It's a little wonky. Oh, I forgot. I forgot I added a weird... Nope, don't want to do that. I do want to do that. Okay. Save that. All right. Do we need to give this more information? Is my question right now. Do we need to give this sideboard more information at the bottom? We know when it's all said and done, we're going to deep darken everything that's not their faces in the locket. When we do that, are we going to need more information? Is my question. And do we want the lamp smaller? Let's try. Are there any, do you guys have any opinions out there? I would love to know. Do we want the lamp? I'm kind of thinking yes. Let's see here. Yeah, I think I'm going for it. There is a weird shadow though that this is gonna be, it's like a weird, let's go half that. Let's go 3. And just clean that up a little. It seems unnecessary. Just a little pixelation happening. Uh-oh, see, now we're getting into, okay, can't do that. Because what's happening is I've got this gradient going on that's attached to the lamp. So if I erase back along the lamp, I'm going to lose my gradient. So that's something we can play with later on. Okay, so let's look at our crop. They're in a good spot facially. The weight of this chair, okay, I've got an idea. What if, open up one of these old copies. See, we're gonna see why it's important. Let's go to this one. Let's see. If his chair is in there. And then flip it. And then change the perspective a little. Actually, you know what? Oops. Flip it again. Sealed one. That makes me so nervous. Okay. All right. So okay, so she is standing. Do I have a picture of her sitting? I mean, obviously I could take one, or I could just make her be sitting in the picture, which I think is probably what we'll end up doing. So I'm going to duplicate this and then hide one, and then what is that? Oh, I think that's the other. All right, we'll deal with that later. Right now, I've got to figure out this chair situation. So first things first, I'm going to get a bigger okay, that's not, there we go. All right. Okay. Where did I get this chair? because the angle is going to be just a little off. I think I got it. No, I think I got it from in here. There we go. So today's video will be on making things entirely more complicated than necessary. And that will also be every other video that I do. Whoops. Let's do this. All right, we got to do the usual. Does it make a difference? Not really. Does it make a minute difference? Yes. Will I continue to do it incessantly? 1,000,000%. For now, anyway. So warm it up and then burn it down. Actually, not burning it, just okay. And see, I spent all of that time like making sure that the sideboard was matching up, and now I'm covering it up completely. It's okay. Right. And I'm gonna save and keep going. All right, where is she? So she is in the main part of the picture. So I can't believe I didn't take one. I could always go back, but it's going to be so dark and it's going to be such a minor part. And I actually just let her, she changed when we got to the studio, and I just let her wear her jeans under because I didn't think that she was going to be warp is always on standby for these scenarios. this might be a reshoot scenario, which there are worse things in the world. That's not a big deal at all. Okay, let's try liquefy. Here we go. Because this is really just the illusion of even a bend. It's like so minor, but where'd our chair go? There we go. Okay, wait a second. All right, so I'm gonna duplicate the chair that we made for her and hide one, and then okay. So okay, we're winging it a little bit. Okay. Nope, that's a little overzealous there. And this is why we kept a copy of the chair. Okay, so we'll go really, really low opacity and a smaller brush and just kind of make sure that that's all taken care of. Okay, and then we can take this darker, we can burn that in. And that's going to be really important too. Okay, and then where's she at? Right here. So we can just copy, not copy, we can clone. Oops. I can't see that at all. All right. So we'll save that. And then I think it really is time to flatten. And then duplicate and save it as a completely new file. So that if we can go back, if we need to go back in, we need to grab elements, we can. So we're in double digits, progress 10. Okay, and now we're into the nitty gritty, these little details. I'm gonna just paint. Here we go. All right. All right, so we got the important elements in there. So what I'm going to do now is just really take it down to the absolute most important. So I'm going to start at 100 and just swipe the important parts. And then I'm going to go down to close to that. And then I'll go really big and really low. Okay, I'm gonna flatten that, duplicate that, and save it again as a separate file. So now we're making these big sweeping changes and also continuing to flatten. When I'm extracting, doing stuff like that, I don't feel the need to okay, so we went in here before. I'm going to duplicate this again because I have extra backup layers. So we went in here before and smoothed out the skin and stuff. So now we're going to dodge and burn. So I always start with dodging. We're at a low exposure. We're at a 9. So I'm just going to go on the points closest to the light source. And you can always go back in and add more. And then I'm going to get a smaller one just to make sure that I'm highlighting these most important parts of the face that really shape the face and give dimension. And it's so subtle, but it has such a beautiful painterly effect. I actually learned to dodge and burn in the Lightroom in college, which is a much more tedious process, but really cool results nonetheless. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to get a really small brush and burn. And it's not at all changing what a person looks like, but it's enhancing the depth of what you're already seeing. There we go. Okay, so here is the difference between before and after. Okay, perfect. Now we already did this on her a little bit, but I'm going to do it again because we're in a different spot now where we're working on the image as a whole. And she had a different light source. She didn't have as strong a light source on her. And she's of course got baby face. So she's gonna have less of that depth. So I feel like you have to be careful not to lose the depth, because it's easy to kind of muddy it a little, and I don't want to do that. And I definitely want to keep that beautiful little catch light. So I'm going to get a bigger almost like a candlelight. All right, now the hands are pretty important too. So let's go smaller. Even these little less bold highlights are so important to show depth and to show the different light sources, which one's more valuable to the story, and then if it's not, then take it out. Just kind of exaggerating creases and shadows to really drive home this story. And if you weren't here earlier, the title of this is So You'll Remember. And it's just kind of a nod to the legacy of photographs and the importance of family. And I think I titled this Home for the Holidays because I thought I was going to work on that one most, and we haven't even cracked that egg, and we probably won't because I didn't realize how late it was. Okay, probably going to wrap this up pretty soon. So I'm going to take out, this is just like the light catching a hair on his hand. I'm just going to take that out. That's just a distraction. And then I'm just going to smear and smudge a little bit in the same direction of his hand, just as if you were painting, just as if you were drawing. You know, you can kind of cross that plane in a different direction to blend, but you want to maintain the dimension that gives it believability, that gives it that reality that we are looking for to hold on to in this scenario. Not every time. Stick my tongue out when I'm concentrating. So if I ever go silent, it's because I have to stick my tongue out to do something well. Okay, giving it this nice painterly effect. It's maintaining the color shift. There we go. Okay, and here is before and after. And it's very subtle, but when you run it across the entire image, it just makes an incredible impact. Okay, so this is going to require some cleanup on the hands. So that is fine by me. All right, so actually her hands don't look too bad, but there is a a situation. Okay. There we go. And there's like a line. It's like an outline. It's weird. Some layer, something maybe got bumped. I don't know. Not a big deal. Not anything that's probably going to show up. And if it does, as long as we get to it before the judges see it, cool. No big deal. That might, because we're right here. We're in 4 pixels. So in the grand scheme of 4,000, it's not going to matter. But if down the road I decide to print this big, it'll matter. So I'd rather take care of those kinds of things now. And that's got some color bleed. Okay. So I'm gonna save. And then I'm going to just blend right there. And actually, I think I'm going to at least minimize this highlight, because while her chin is catching a natural highlight, it's kind of dragging some attention more than drag that dark under there, and that'll make a difference. So I want to keep the attention in the front of her face, not so much the back. Okay, so we might have some color shifting down here to handle too, but I'm going to go ahead and smudge. You know what, before I do that, I am going to dodge and burn because that will help me see the color shifting. There's some little highlights in there that I don't want to give up. And give it a little bit of gradient on some of these meatier parts of the hand. And then we'll go a little bigger. Just do a light kind of swipe. Okay, so now we can get rid of, that'll get rid of this grain. We can go in and get rid of this kind of graying tones that tend to take over when in a composite. We can handle that now. She was so thrilled to have this picture with her poppy. A lot of grain going on in here because of the way it was lit. That's okay, because we wanted the focus to be on their connection, not so much on those kinds of details. We need the burn tool in there. A little bitty, even smaller than that, half that even. That was dodge. That's what we're looking for. Okay. Okay. Yeah, peek under there again. Then I'm going to shift my stroke to go kind of around the wrist. Okay, and we need I don't want to lose the depth just because we are working on this kind of painterly soft look. I don't want to lose the depth of the hands especially. So I'm just creating that depth the way I would in a drawing or a painting so that I'm not losing any dimension. It's a little too big. And this is all just implied lighting. I love it. I'm not sure what is happening. Oh, that's the back of the cabinet. Okay. All right. As you were. Because it looks like I've got here we go. Definitely want to save. We are starting to come together. Delete those and duplicate that and then save it as the next go, which is 12. My lucky number is 13, so maybe we're getting somewhere with this. Okay, that chair was a good add. We're in a nice just trying to figure out where I want to go with this next. Okay, so for one thing, I should have done this for sure beforehand, but I didn't. So here we are. Okay. So first things first, soften that shadow. go to where the table ends, and then to about 50%. So it's just going to be an implied. Really simple change, but important. All right. What do we see? What do we see that we need to fix here? Is that lamp too much? Is it too bright? Is it stealing the thunder of my subjects? Is anything blown out or blocked up? Being blocked up wouldn't matter so much in this type of low-key image, and most of my images are low-key. So you can see right here, I've got a little, just that shadow in her dress that is hanging out. But you can also see where the chair, where I didn't get everything erased back. All in all, that's pretty solid. Now let's check the other way. If I had to guess, I would guess the top of the lamp. Not bad. I wonder too, and this is just kind of me messing around, if this makes sense to take that out. What do we think? And take that bright. I like that better. I kind of didn't expect that to work. So, surprise, surprise. And that'll take away a little of the dark too. Okay, and then we can go okay. All right, so let's go. I'm gonna have to be more precise here. I was just kind of messing around because I didn't expect that to work. And now that it worked, I need to make sure that I'm being intentional. Do we like that better? We do. We definitely do. There we go. Oh yeah, it's coming together now. And I'm probably going to need to wrap it up because I didn't realize it's 10 o'clock. But tomorrow's a holiday. Celebrate the presidents. You can celebrate. You can just pick your favorites. Celebrate those. And, you know, not the rest. That's okay. All right. So I think this is a good time. This image evolved into like not even a shadow of what I initially intended for it to do, but I really, really love where it's at right now. So I think this is a good time to walk away from it. I want to make sure I saved it because the computer's acting kind of weird right now. Okay. Okay, it's not one to Zoom. Still thinking. Regardless, thank you so much for joining me. Please, please, please follow along here on Twitch. Subscribe to YouTube. Follow me on Instagram. And we will eventually get to this, which you could see my beautiful little sketch. And by eventually, I mean tomorrow. And then I'm also going to come back and revisit this image. And I might just print out a test print and see the difference between the screen and the print and mark it up, find some stuff that I need to change, and keep going. So if you were along for the ride today, thank you. That some of this stuff is so tedious and long that I would love some feedback. I love the back and forth because normally when I'm editing, it's just me and music singing, and I'm not going to do either of those because of copyright and because of my singing. So come back and help entertain me, and then we're going to put some finishing touches on this and get it into some competitions, because I have precisely one day before the late option closes for my competitions. So I'd like to get some eyes on this before I send it into the big deal. Thank you so much for joining me. Have an amazing evening, and I hopefully I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good one.
That's why you my mommy. Please.